We click on the Files area of the course, we're taken to the file browser. This is a pretty standard file browser interface. Over on the left-hand side, you have the folder structure, and then on the right-hand side, you have a view of whichever folder you have selected. Right now, by default, we always start off on the root folder, or the topmost folder in the hierarchical structure, which is the EOU Canvas Orientation. For you, it would be the name of your course. Below that, we can have folders that are nested within it, subfolders, and then subfolders within subfolders if we'd like to do that as well. Right now I'm looking at my root folder. I have one subfolder known as images. I can click on images to look at the contents of that image folder. I can add more photos or images or files to whichever folder I have selected by clicking on the green upload button over here to the right. I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to click on upload. I'm just going to choose a picture and open that. And that will go through the upload, and then it's been added. Now it's been added to my root directory here, so it sits parallel with the images folder. If I'd like to move this into an image folder, since it is a JPEG, I can simply drag and drop it. I can drag it down to the images folder here and drop it, or I can drag it over here to the images folder and drop it, whichever way. And both ways, it will end up in the images subfolder. So now I click on the images subfolder, and there's my little life preserver picture that I just uploaded at 3:09 p.m. today. I'm going to go ahead and click to create a new folder. I'm going to call this week 1 content. And now I have another subfolder in my main root directory. I can even drag and drop subfolders within the root folder or within their containing folder. I'm going to grab my images folder, I'm going to drop it into my week 1 content. And now my week 1 content has that subfolder nested within it. One thing that's kind of important to know if you're using the drag and drop interface is all drag and drop must be initiated on the right-hand side of this interface. You cannot drag and drop. You can't start the drag and drop over here on the left side. This is just going to grab the link out of these items if you're using Chrome. It doesn't really drag and drop. It's not drag and drop compatible starting here, but as long as you start here and drag and drop, you can end the drag and drop on this left-hand side. I'm going to change my images folder back to the root directory, so I need to access the week 1 content so I can see that images folder within the week 1 content subfolder. Now I can drag it and drop it back onto the root directory again. Be aware that sometimes when you do that, Canvas will actually copy the folders that you dragged and dropped instead of moving them. I'm not just exactly sure what the nuances are behind that or how that happens when it does happen, so just be aware. And when you're doing your dragging and dropping, just keep your eye out for that. Now I have 2 folders that say images that both have identical items in them. So I didn't really intend for that to happen. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to delete this images folder. To get rid of this folder, I need to go to the containing folder, which it exists in the week 1 content, because I need to be able to see it over here on the right-hand side of the interface. So now that I'm in the week 1 content containing folder, I can see that images folder that I want to delete. I can't delete it on this side, but I can come over on this side on the far right, click on the gear, and I can delete it along with, or I could download it or rename it or move it. I'm going to click on delete, and now that folder is gone. I can preview items that are in the files interface if I like. I can click on images and click on this image, and that will show me what that picture looks like. Over on the right-hand side of the files, you may have noticed that they have published status just the same as everything else in Canvas. If you have a file, say like a key for questions in an exam that you don't want students to ever be able to access, you can have that in your Canvas course, and then come over here and unpublish that item. I'm just going to choose unpublish. Now students will not be able to see that. Even if I have that linked somewhere in my course, it will show them that they are unauthorized if they try to look at that. This brings us to an important point when it comes to files. Unless you've hidden the Files button over here on the left-hand side, the Files menu item, students will be able to access your Files interface and see all the files that you have stored in here. That's why it's important to make sure this is an organized place. Or it's also important that if you don't want them to be able to see this, that you hide the files from the course navigation menu here. We'll go over that when we get into the settings guide for the settings button in the navigation menu down here at the very bottom. The drag and drop also works from your computer desktop or from some other window on your computer. I'm going to open up my Finder and just drag an item from my Finder into Canvas and drop it on that right-hand side, and it can also upload that way as well. So you can upload either with the button here or just by dragging and dropping it into the Canvas window. One last thing that I'm going to show you is that you can also drag and drop a zip folder into Canvas, and it will give you the option to unzip that folder and retain the pre-existing folder structure that you had in that zipped folder. So if I grab this zip and I drop it into my Canvas page, it asks me, would you like to expand the contents or just upload the zip as it is? I'm going to click on expand it, and then that brings up this Art Center website.zip. You may note down here in the lower right that says all my files. You can click on this link. That'll take you to an interface that actually shows you a directory of all of the files that you have across Canvas in every course that you teach. If you're looking for one specific file that you know belongs in one course, you can access that course, look for that specific file, and drag it and drop it into a different course.